We're putting faces behind the voices you hear on the radio.
Air traffic controllers in the hangar.
I used to be a well-respected member of the aviation community, and then I started flying a Cirrus, and that changed.
Oh, that was great until the engine quit.
And all of a sudden I see these explosions and these trees exploding.
I'm walking away a better pilot because of this discussion.
Welcome to In the Hangar. I'm Dan Milliken.
And I'm Christy Wong. Thank you guys so much for being here with us today. We've got Matt and Scott, who are both air traffic controllers. So the first question I want to start off with you guys is, why is it so intimidating to talk to you on the radio?
Well, let Scott take that one.
I don't know. You know, and actually, I got into air traffic control because of that. I was flying first, and when I am freaking terrified to talk to these guys on the radio, I'm afraid to say the wrong thing, go the wrong place. And so I started taking ATC classes and then just fell in love with it. And
so you like telling people what to do, basically?
I do, yeah. Sometimes
it's love with that.
It's nice because
it's got a control issue.
Exactly.
They have to listen to me. It's just, it's a great place to be in.
Yeah.
Opposite to him, I was a controller first and then became a pilot. So I can see why students think it's intimidating to talk to us because, you know, we're the other man on the radio, and the whole intent of air traffic control is we're telling you instructions, you know, to do, and that just adds on to the, you know, stress level, if you will, for some student pilots, especially student pilots that don't necessarily speak English, or they're over here to speak English, and they're learning English while they're learning how to fly. It really affects those guys. So, you know, one thing I like to do in my off time is I'll go and venture over to the flight schools, and I'll talk to them. I'm like, hey, I'm just a guy. You know, I'm a controller, I'm also a pilot, I get it. We're not that intimidating, we're not gonna come after you. You know,
we're not the cops.
We're not the cops, essentially.
We're not gonna yank your license away because you said "and" too many times.
Well, let me ask you this. You say that you get a lot of foreign students. For those who don't understand, why do we have a lot of foreign students?
Honestly, I don't know off the top of my head. I could think or imagine that it was just the availability to become a pilot is greater over here than it is in some other places.
Well, I thought,
you know,
and maybe I'm wrong, I thought like English is the main language that's by 90% of the countries around the world for air traffic.
So countries that fall in to ICAO, English is the language of ICAO, but that doesn't stop the country of origin from speaking their language. For example, in Mexico, their ATCs, at least in Cancun and Mexico City, they're in English and they're in Spanish. And a lot of their control instructions, it just based on, you know, when you're flying in there and you start speaking English, then they'll come back to you with English. Otherwise, a lot of it's Spanish. You know, same thing with United Arab Emirates. When I was deployed over there, those guys did a lot of their ATC in a foreign language. So I couldn't really.
See, I thought the foreign countries were sending their pilots over here to not only learn to fly, but to learn English.
It could be that. It could be a cost thing. I don't know. I know there's several flight schools around here that have contracts with other countries, and so yeah, we deal with them on a day-by-day basis.
I think it's the FAA's like standards in aviation as well. They're higher than other countries, and so a lot of times they'll come over here for those strict standards.
I can believe that, but honestly, the direct answer, I'm not sure. Could be a million reasons.
Okay, so we talked about being intimidated talking to you guys behind the mics there, because I just hear the word possible pilot deviation and my blood pressure goes up. So let me ask you guys, what crosses the line to where you're going to issue a pilot deviation, possible pilot deviation?
I try not to. I don't like doing it. I kind of come from the, you know, no harm, no foul kind of mentality. You didn't really put anybody in jeopardy or anything like that, then it's like, all right, hey, you messed up. You know, I might not even say anything to you about it. I know other guys that love to issue those things out, but it just depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah,
you know?
You guys have a scary amount of authority, like it seems. I think that's where the intimidation factor for me comes in, is that you guys truly do, like you have that, you know, authority to be able to do that.
Well, in terms of authority, in the end, guess where I'm sitting? I'm sitting in a tower watching out the window, and you're flying the airplane. So pilot in command has the responsibility and authority of flying his own airplane. So there's not too much intimidation or authority that in that manner that comes from us. But I'm kind of the same mentality. I don't like to give those out for a couple of reasons. One, paperwork. and that's no fun. But two, it's any times that I would have possibly given it out, the only times I've actually given it out is because something almost happened and that would have been bad. And a lot of the times when I give those out, I try to go and not go in search and hunt of that person, but just try to talk to them and say, hey, what were what was going through your mind? Because, as a pilot and a controller, I'm always learning. So maybe somebody came in and landed on a taxiway. I'm thinking, what exactly was going through your head? Or in the instance of Meacham, people come in and try to land at Navy or on occasion Alliance, and they get the runways all mixed up and they're at the wrong airport, and I don't know, I just try to see the whole story. Why were you thinking that way? It's not like I'm accusing them or anything. I'm just trying to figure out, maybe there's a different way of thinking that I could avoid, or I don't know, maybe they just slipped up, missed a checklist item and looked down for a second and then came back up and were like, oh, we're landing at the wrong airport.
So you're letting the pilot essentially learn from that experience, hopefully, and then you're learning from it as well, because being a pilot,
yes,
you're learning from other people's mistakes.
And
actually a great way to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, we even give that number out to airline pilots sometimes, and it's not just because we want to nail them for something. We want to find out what was going on up there, where did the miscommunication come in and how can we fix it?
So what does that mean when ATC says, hey, I've got a number for you? Because I always thought it was just you guys trying to ask me out on a date. And so I just always ignored it.
Well,
that goes well.
Well, yeah, not negative.
I'm just kidding. I've never been given the number, so.
Not yet.
Thanks, Matt.
Come to meet you
yeah,
sometime.
Anyways, we can fix that.
Yeah, the number is actually most of the time it's the number of the person who's giving it to you. It's a phone line for you to get on the ground, and most of the times I won't give you any deviations unless you're landing. If you're landing at my airport, I'm going to wait till you're on the ground safe, because I've made the mistake of giving someone a deviation before they landed. It was a very bad landing, and something else happened internally with the person that they were done. Mentally, and I'll wait till they land. If they're passing through the airspace and they're stable phase of flight, more or less, I'll tell them, hey, this possible pilot deviation if I really have to. I really haven't given a lot of them out up here, but it's just a number so that they can call, and it's like, hey, I'm this guy, I'm the local guy, and here's what it appeared that you did. Appeared's our favorite word, because we're never,
Yeah.
I'm not always right,
It's not the FSDO either. We're not giving you the FSDO number. We're not telling you guys to call the FSDO. We're telling you to call our facility. It's usually my supervisor's desk or maybe in the operations manager, is that sort of thing. We just want to get your side of the story and find out what happened. Again, we're not the cops. We're not going to start nailing you for stuff.
No, we are not.
Are there any black and white, like a pilot does this, it automatically gets a possible deviation? Like
No.
runway incursion.
It's always in the gray areas. Well, I mean, maybe with you, but
a runway incursion is more just paperwork for us. It just varies case by case. There's no black and white that says, you looked at me wrong, possible pilot deviation.
Right.
There's nothing along those lines. I think it just all depends on, it's case by case, and
so it's always a judgment call.
It's always a judgment call. Because
Wow.
if you go runway incursion onto my runway and I have this random centurion from a nearby airport that comes in and just lands out of nowhere, okay, well I'm gonna.
I think I know that airplane.
Yeah, finally got out of an annual, goodness
Yeah.
gracious, or 100 hour, whatever it was.
Top.
But anyways, you enter a runway in that case, then I'm going to have something to say about it. I'm like, hey man, you see that airplane that you just pulled out in front of? And it's not like it's more like a, hey, wake up, possible pilot deviation. You just almost killed yourself. Because again, me in the tower, I'm sitting there watching the whole thing happen, going, and then safety.
So you're a tower controller, so obviously that's a completely different dynamic than from what you do, because you're at Fort Worth Center.
Yeah, he's got a better view than I do, that's for sure.
Right, so what would you say are the most common, I guess, pilot deviations that you see? Because you work, airspace that you don't get to see. You're just looking at radar, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our stuff could usually be, a lot of it is usually with like lost comms, and the guys in DC are very, aware of anybody that goes Nordo for any, short amount of time or whatever. And so that's usually, sometimes if we've had a guy that's gone, several hundred miles without talking to anybody, VFR, IFR, whatever, we may give them the number just to find out, hey, what happened? Did you pass out? Did your radios break? What went wrong? So we can, make sure we fix it somewhere else.
And to clarify, that's after you guys have repeatedly tried to get a hold of it.
Oh yeah. We have a whole checklist of of, you know, trying them on guard, trying other facilities, going to previous controllers, having other aircraft relay, you know, that sort of thing. So, because we know sometimes radios can be, you know, sketchy, especially at low altitude and that sort of thing.
That's why it's a possible pilot deviation.
Exactly.
Maybe you didn't.
Exactly.
Maybe you didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly.
Maybe you just dropped your Mountain Dew and you're trying to clean it up, and we're trying to get a hold of you. You know, possible pilot deviation. Something may have happened. Because then if you call us back and you're like, oh yeah, everything was good. Oh, you didn't hear us on the radio? No, but my radio was working fine. Maybe it was just a wrong frequency, or you know.
Or maybe somebody turned the volume all the way down.
I get that a lot.
Hear that all the time.
I was
That's
gonna
a big
say, yeah.
excuse.
The time I went Nordo the worst was because I had gone to check ATIS as I'm, you know, nearing my time of descent, and so much talking, I'd turn down COM 1 while I listened to ATIS on COM 2 and forget. And so I'm like, wow, they haven't told me
it's
when
quiet
to
out
start.
here.
They haven't told me when to descend. Well, I'm gonna have to descend soon. I'm way too high now. Like, you know, I started punching the thing, saying, you know, trying to call in, and nothing. They're not answering me. Yeah, it was a big moment when I realized what was going on.
Yeah, they're answering.
I was pretty embarrassed.
You know, it's funny, you know, Steve and I just went to Oshkosh and back, and there was a period of time where I was actually really concerned. I didn't hear anything on the radio. We were getting flight following up there, and I was like, wow, it's been really quiet for a while. So not wanting to sound stupid, like, hey, are you guys still there? I literally was like, can I get a current altimeter check, please?
There you go.
For 5-1
That's
whiskey.
exactly
And that's what I did, and they came back up, and I knew I was okay, but I seriously started turning it way up. And
No.
I hear that every day. He's still there. He's still there. And
see, I just asked for altimeter.
Yeah.
Is that like cool or what?
the altimeter is nice. That's
altimeter's
nice.
nice,
I
yeah.
haven't had that one. No, he's like, they're still there, or awfully quiet, or whatever.
Yeah. So I want to know what your guys' pet peeves are then,
Yeah.
because I mean, obviously that sounds like it's
Pilot
almost
pet
like
peeves.
Oh man.
like a pet peeve,
I
you
didn't
know.
bring my list with me.
I'm sure you have it memorized.
But right into that, I think it just goes with listening. Just listen. You know, when we have to call you 3, 4, 5 times, that's when we get frustrated. And I get you guys are busy or whatever, but just talking to your passenger, you know, and not paying attention. I've been there, but yeah, when we have to call you guys a bunch of times, and then we're worried that you are Nordo, and then we're starting to follow that checklist, and then you show up, yeah, you looking for me? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have been for like 30 minutes, you know,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
That's the following and flight following.
Yeah, exactly.
I could agree with that for top 5 pet peeves. I mean, in a center environment, I'm sure there's a lot of different pet peeves from a tower, you know.
Yeah, I
in
would
a
think they're
tower, I can
different.
see a lot more stuff, and if I see something that I was like, I didn't remember authorizing that, or that's not what was supposed to happen, or yeah, it's just listening, and you know, it's also, you know, listening and understanding what you're told. I've been approached multiple times. What's line up and wait? You're a pilot? Yeah.
Isn't that position and hold?
It used to be, but they didn't know what it was, and I'd, you know, hey, line up and wait. I gotta hit a hole. I gotta, you know, stuff's busy, and I need to get you out. What's line up and wait? Hold short.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll say this though. So I got my private license. I was certificated, and I went on my first real long cross country after that. Flew from Fort Worth to Lexington, so Class C for work. And when I landed, did my work, so I got in the airplane, was, you know, talking to ground. I get up there, talk to tower, I'm ready to go, and they tell me to line up and wait. I'd never ever had heard that phrase. And all I could think in my head was, oh my gosh, is he telling me to go out there? What if he's not? And I do a runway incursion. You know, because he's basically,
You know what to do
I had to
now.
either go out to the runway or not. And so, you know, I just remember the voice of the instructor saying, well, if you're unsure, clarify. So, you know, are you saying to go ahead and go out on the runway? And then by that point, he was like, you know, okay, clear for takeoff, you know.
You're just kind of inching toward the line. Yeah, there's a special word if you don't know, understand something. It's unable.
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 Yeah, just unable. And one thing I've learned from some students at Meacham is some of their instructors don't allow them to do it until they're pretty close to being done. And I sit there and wonder why. I mean, at least they do teach it to them. Thank God, they do teach them. This is line up and wait. Go out and stop.
It's a simple deal. It's not that.
It's just so we can get you out. You know, especially
Right.
when we're busy and you're sitting in the run-up area for, you know, 0.5, paying, you know, $150 an hour. You know, I've been there, done that. Got the T-shirt and it's worn out now, so I feel them sitting over in the run-up area, and it's just, you know, when I want to get you out, and I'm like, line up and wait. We don't know what that means. Hold short, you know, and then, you know, I'll go in, you know, I haven't given a number out for that one, but I have given a number out for things that weren't understood. Be like, hey, just give me a call on the tower, and it's like, no deviation or anything, but let's just talk about it and just learn on both sides of things. I'm not the perfect pilot,
I'd rather have you ask for clarification than make that 50-50 guess
Yes.
of do I go out there or not and then mess something up. Ask for clarification. If you don't get it, just tell me you don't get it. I can work with that.
And do so more earlier rather than later, even on the ground. If you're like, ready to take off and you're told to do something, it's not going to hurt my feelings if you're like, I don't understand that. I want to cancel takeoff clearance and exit and just get my crud together and just do that on the ground. It's better on the ground than trying to get up in the air and it's like, okay, here's all your instructions, and you're like, it's. And
don't worry, we'll pass that information on to the next controller. We'll be, hey, watch that guy, he's not that bright. So,
You do pass that stuff on.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Because you guys are sitting right next to each other kind of thing?
Some yes, some no. It just depends on what sector you're going to next.
Well, I'll tell you that getting out and meeting you guys, seeing you guys face to face has helped a lot in my own anxiety over the radio. Going to the fast sessions where we've been able to listen to the TRACON's presentation and everything else, it's been eye-opening and really helpful. And I think any pilot should go to that kind of stuff.
I implore any and all pilots to get out there, get to know your local controllers, get a tour of your local center if you have that opportunity.
Yep.
We've actually toured Fort Worth Center before.
I haven't yet, and I want to.
It's an amazing, amazing opportunity. So we should definitely do that.
All right. Thanks for watching. Thank you guys, ATC guys, for coming. And as always, please share, subscribe, leave comments if you want. Thanks.